Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising as we commemorate Earth Day, a global event that was started back in the 1970s and has gained traction around the world. We also want to note that today is the beginning of Passover. So I want to extend our warm regards to all members of the Jewish community as they celebrate the beginning of Passover. This is a day where it's worth reflecting on the relationship between Passover, Earth Day, and what's occurring in the land of the Jews and the Palestinians as the Israelis continue with full support from the United States to commit genocide against the Palestinian people. It's worth noting that over the last 6 months, we've had the major holy days of all of the Abrahamic religions. We've celebrated Ramadan, Holy Week, and now Passover. And there has not been a single day when the Israelis have not firebombed civilians in Gaza. 18 children were killed yesterday, blown up in a house where they'd been kind of hidden away to protect them. Today, a pregnant woman was blasted to death in one of the detonations, and they rushed her to Al-Shifa Hospital, and by cesarean section out of her dead body, they extracted her little baby who was born an orphan. I want to say something that will be provocative on Earth Day, but the depravity that we are seeing with the genocide in Palestine raises the question in my mind. If the world is going to stand by and allow the Israelis and the Americans to finish the job, as Netanyahu and Biden keep saying, I wonder whether humanity is worth the earth, or whether it's come time for the earth to rid herself of humanity. This is a strong statement, but I do so in light of the Kogi prophecy, which we have been commemorating, issued by the Kogi last December as a final warning, a final prophetic call to humanity, with an indication that in the 6 months between the winter solstice of 2023 and the summer solstice of 2024, humanity is coming into a reckoning. And that beginning at the solstice coming up, the earth is going to restore herself with or without us. And when she's finished, only 30% of the world will remain. As I've been communing with Earth Day and communing with Passover and communing with the daily events, I've come to a conviction that Gaza is the anvil upon which human destiny is going to be sorted out. This is not an ordinary event. This is an event that has to do with the deepest strata of the Abrahamic religions, with Western civilization, with Judeo-Christianity. And it was made all the more poignant late last week when the United States issued a veto in the Security Council over a motion that would allow the Palestinian people to take full membership in the United Nations. And the United States, with France and England abstaining, voted no. And the UN ambassador from the United States, Linda Greenfield Taylor, stated that the United States would never allow Palestinian membership until after complete negotiations and the final approval of the Israeli government, which is effectively a negation of Palestinian membership. And I thought, when I heard her speech, that here President Biden had an extraordinary, historic moment and opportunity. After everything all of us have seen being done to the Palestinians, at least give them membership in the United Nations. But Biden said no. And the point that I want to make about this is that we have some rhetoric in the news that somehow the United States doesn't really want this to all be happening. And we need to come to terms with the reality that the United States and Israel are full partners, not only in the weaponry that the United States continues to provide, not only in the blockage of any movement toward a ceasefire, and now even blocking Palestinian membership. But this relentless desecration of a culture on the land, where there are no military targets. There are just people in a little area, 25 miles by 5 miles. 6 months of relentless bombing. So there's virtually nothing left. And I've said before, we cannot look away, my friends. We cannot look away from the genocide in Gaza, even on Earth Day. We want to celebrate the earth, and celebrate the earth we should. But on this Earth Day, particularly in light of the Kogi prophecy, that humanity is now being called into a final reckoning, where climate scientists around the world are saying that we're heading directly into what they're calling an extinction event in 2025, 2026. The question that I would pose, in light of what we're doing to each other and to the ecosystem, is the question that the extraterrestrials have been asking to the people with whom they've been communicating. Has humanity forfeited its right to continue to exist on this planet? These are strong words, I know. But we're in a strong time. And not unless and until we radically wake up, every single one of us, to a higher level of awareness and therefore capacity to act, as I'm doing right now by calling your attention to a deeper question on Passover, on Earth Day, in the midst of the Kogi prophecy of reckoning. So today we're going to be discussing among three astrologers convened by Linda Tucker, who you all know because she's been on Humanity Rising a number of times, the founder of the White Lion Protection Trust, who's been dedicating her life to salvaging the white lions from genocide, extinction, and doing it mightily with a lioness's heart. We also know that the white lions are playing a subtle, mystical, and deeply miraculous role in this composite of contradictions. And an old age is collapsing and a new age is rising. And whether it'll be with us or not, I think is an open question we need to seriously ponder. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on this sacred day at this extraordinary moment. For as we choose collectively, our collective destiny will be made manifest. And for me, that anvil is Gaza. I'd like to now welcome Linda Tucker, who's coming in from South Africa, and she'll make some opening remarks, and then she'll introduce our other speakers, and then they'll dialogue, and then I'll join for the balance of the time. Linda, thank you so much for your willingness to come to Humanity Rising on this very, very momentous day.
Jim, everyone present, Maurice, Lynn, thank you for joining us. Normally, I would link up, Jim, as you know, from the heart of White Lion territories, the epicenter of the ecosystem. I'm en route back to the bushveld, and I've dropped in at a hotel that has allowed me to use their internet to connect in. So I'm fortunate enough, everyone, to be returning to lion territories where I would venture to say the new paradigm already exists. The golden age has been birthed in the midst of what Jim is describing as a cataclysmic moment, potentially. We certainly are on a precipice as humanity. This extinction event that we know is a possibility if we do not shift fundamentally into a whole new model of relationship with our planet. And the Kogi prophecy, I'm well aware of it. I've been communicating with the Kogis who are taking this prophecy of Earth's message to humanity at this time. On Earth Day, this could not be more poignant and more relevant. Earth is sentient. Gaia is a living, conscious mother being. And finally, she's giving humanity an ultimatum, ultimately, as the Kogi prophecy explains, for restoration out of love. But it is the final hour. And I often speak in my work with the White Lions that we're beyond the clock. We're in the 13th hour, that hour of grace, which allows a miraculous outcome. So, you know, on the back of Jim's articulation of what is at stake, taking place in the so-called Holy Lands, as Jim puts it, the final reckoning, the anvil on which humanity's destiny will be concluded. It's a cliffhanger moment. And what I would like to share with you, a moment in humanity's evolutionary history. It's a turning point. And what I would like to share with you, with the expertise of Lynn Bell and Maurice Fernandez, who are lifetimes astrologers, tracking change, identifying what the cosmos is inviting us to do by way of rising into our higher consciousness. With the help of these highly accomplished astrologers, I would like this session to be an understanding that the central theme of humanity rising in the age into which we're turning, the Leo Aquarius age, is to recognize that we are on the brink of this Prometheus moment. It invites an evolutionary leap in humanity, but we can only make it if we anchor ourselves in the heart. I would say the lion heart, or else we do face our own extinction. And I'd like to share with you why I believe that the white lions are emissaries who have rebirthed on Earth. They're known to have existed in epochs of crisis prior, such as the collapse of the Egyptian epoch. We would imagine possibly the various epochs as identified in the Mayan calendar, the 4 suns before our own. There are records of them or mythical references to them in prior occasions, but they have embodied themselves on Earth at this time. And my work over the decades has been to understand what they are here to do by way of leading us, charting us through these times to the higher consciousness humanity. They embody and they hold the key codes to this. And my frontline conservation project, which is on the borders of an ecosystem, actually it's in the heart of an ecosystem, but expanding the sacred site of the heartland to ensure that the ecosystem is protected in its wholeness and reclaim the source waters that are being polluted at source in this part of the world, one of the most important biodiversity hotspots and one of the last ranges of lions on the planet. So I'm contextualizing what we're going to track for you and what essentially we're going to be tracking for humanity and our opportunity to raise consciousness in the midst of this crucible. Before we go ahead and open the floor to these highly accomplished astrologers who I trust so much and who have advised on my project over the decades, let us take this opportunity together to honor Earth, this conscious mother who gives us everything, from the waters to the air we breathe, to all forms of gifting. That which we as humanity took as consumption, the consumerist model, in the ecosystem, everything gives, and therefore everything receives. I would like if we have time, to describe to you the different model that exists in the ecosystem. Predation rather than consumerism. That is the world of difference, and the lions embody that and show us how we can move into a new consciousness of the gift economy that benefits the greater good of the whole, and that is actively modeled by Earth herself in intact ecosystems such as the one which the white lions are restoring at this time. So before we do so, let us take a really deep moment of silence. Wherever we are on the globe, let us feel beneath our feet, even if there's concrete beneath our feet and we're 5 stories up, let us drop beneath the soles of our feet the energy of a golden taproot to the center of Mother Gaia, and let us feel the molten gold at the center of Gaia and say, connect. We are connected to the heart of Gaia. And now above our crowns, let us take a ray up to the imaginary sun above us. And let us say, connect. From the sun, allow the flow all the way down through our spinal columns. That Kundalini axis that allows the flow from the heavenly plan down as a conduit through us as upright humans, down all the way down to the soles. So from the crown to the sole of our feet. When we truly are humanity rising, when we truly are working with raised consciousness, we are upright beings and we are the conduit for the heavenly plan on earth. This invitation is still open to us at this very moment. Let us visualize ourselves as these beings with the potential to anchor this in the heart. So from the soles of your feet, from the crowns of your head, let us anchor this gold in the golden heart, the true heart, the brave heart, the one united heart, the lion heart. We hold that. And when we use that as the golden compass to guide our higher knowledge, when we use that as the golden compass to guide our deeds, our actions, when we embody this golden-filled lion consciousness, we are the beings that were prophesied. Even in the biblical texts, in Ezekiel, there's the remembrance that the first being was like a lion with wings, and it was made to stand on its hind legs, and a human heart was given unto it, and the wings thereof were plucked, if you refer to your biblical text again. And this being is remembered as the key code of what humanity rising can become. But to do that, we have to restore our sacred relationship with our planet. It was always intended to be one of reverence, one of sacred service, one of loving interbeing. And when we are these upright humans, the true conduits between the heavenly plan and Mother Earth Gaia, who is giving us an ultimatum for our own evolutionary leap at this time. When we are that, we are the higher human. And so, Mother Earth Gaia, we hear your call. At every moment, may we be conscious of all that you give to us. May we see your rivers run clear. May we see your oceans restore their fecundity, their health, their healing, your land masses grow in their, not only in their biodiversity, but their university, where all is part of the greater good of the whole, as the true ecosystem shows us, as the echo from the ecosystem echoes the great heartbeat from the source of the creator through the galactic center, the one heart of creation. The first beat from the heavens, the second echoing back from earth, because earth is a heavenly realm. Let us remember that. And so, beloved ones, with that consciousness in your hearts, I'm going to refer to two myths that were shared with me by profound African knowledge keepers whose knowledge go right back to Egyptian times through an unbroken lineage in the memory banks stored of these memory keepers. And I was privileged enough to have this knowledge shared with me by a great African knowledge keeper called Credo Mutwa, who died as the world went into shutdown, into lockdown, at the age of 98 years old, and handed the responsibility over to humanity in the way that the Kogis are doing right now. They are verbalizing what Earth is saying for humanity. But he shared with me two profound teachings that have actualized in my project. The first he shared is that the white lions are star lions, a great myth that I've seen manifest in my project. And the second myth is a very well-known African myth, this profound knowledge system that says that when a true leader or king departs from this realm, he becomes a lion in death and returns to the stars. So there are two almost counterintuitive myths here. The lions, the star lions who have materialized on earth, come from the heavens to restore a heavenly realm. And humanity, as a true leader, can gain the identity of the lion and return to the stars when we depart. Now, I'm going to use that as a theme we'll return to, but I'd like to introduce you to our astrologers here, Maurice Fernandez, Lynn Bell, as I said, have dedicated their lives to astrology. Lynn has been an astrologer for 4 decades. She's a founding faculty member of the Chart School and Ubiquity University, based out of Paris. And Maurice Fernandez was for over a decade the president of OPA, the astrology, the professional astrology organization, and has tracked with me over several decades as well the star connections with the white lions in a living project, which is a frontline conservation project. My work in conservation, we shared actually on Humanity Rising. If you'd like to understand more about the project on the ground doing the work with an entirely new model that is embodying the potential for humanity to rise into higher consciousness, that is entitled Saving the White Lions, and that was the 1st of February. And that details how this transition is possible effectively. So, Lynn, Maurice, can I hand over to you, I think, firstly, to share with everyone. We're going to be meeting later this year at the Omega Institute. We would hope that you join us there, because the program on the 7th to the 9th of June is addressing exactly this critical event in advance of the Kogi prophecy. And it really speaks into not only the previous evolutionary leap that humanity made, and I will return to that in a moment, but it speaks into the opportunity that is embedded in this crisis. When we can read the configurations of a cosmic moment, we on Earth, in love with our planet, will know how to act, and it might require shifting out on a large scale of the current leadership, so-called leadership governing structures. So, Lynn, Maurice, can we begin by sharing with everyone really the basics so we can really understand astrologically Leo Aquarius, the age that is turning in this calendar, this time of turning, the great epoch of turning. It is actually a polarity. Everyone knows that there is this turning into the age of Aquarius from the days of the great musical Hair. We're on the eve of the age of Aquarius. But in fact, it is a Aquarius Leo turning point. And if you could speak into what we know, that this turning point isn't a moment in time, it is a progressive turning point. But if you could speak into the current moment and then the opportunity for humanity to navigate the Leo Aquarius age. Can I begin with you, Maurice, and then we hand over to Lynn?
Thank you, Linda, and such a great opportunity to share this space on this special day and these special times, adding to the religious festivities. There are also important astrological alignment, namely this is what we call an eclipse season. We've been through 2 eclipses this month, one of them over the United States. And eclipses have a prophetic activation. It is often a time where fate supersedes free will. And things happen on a higher order, quite often swiftly. So these eclipse moments can have a lasting impact when we study this in the context of nations or individuals or leaders. And so we are indeed, as Jim was bringing up earlier, this, traumatic political warfare that is happening started during the previous eclipse season in October. And, this was something that many of us astrologers spoke to, including the Israeli involvement with a crisis that is imminent. And so today is also a time of celebration. I don't know if I can share my screen. Let me try. Yes. It's a time of celebration for several reasons, but I just saw recently this, so to speak, revelation that we all know. Astrobiologists suggest the Earth itself may be an intelligent entity. So they're catching on to what we already know. This was published in a paper in Cambridge. So, of higher scientific credential. And I think this is the beginning of healing, because what we see, the horrors that we see throughout history, not just now, are often perpetrated when we dehumanize another side, whether we dehumanize the earth, and it's a strange word to say dehumanize. I would say deconsciousize, if there's such a thing. And you know, refer to the earth as a thing, or as, you know, a candy store that we can exploit, rather than seeing it as a conscious living, an intelligent mechanism, organism, the same thing that we can apply to everything in the universe. Because as astrologers, we track the cycles of the planets and can see this is a good time for this is the right time for that. But planets and the whole, you know, what is revealed through astrology is that the solar system and the universe is intelligent, that there is a sacred order. And if we just pay attention, we could learn so much more and live such better lives. So this is the beginning of healing to me. And I think along those lines is, as we are in the trenches, you know, we have the privilege not to be in the physical trenches and to be safe in our homes. But it's very important to not dehumanize any sides, including sometimes the predators, because there is otherwise a constant play of duality, a constant play of justification for hatred, and then justification for harm, etc. So going back to Linda's reference, Humanity Rising in the Leo Aquarius Age is an event we're organizing in June at the Omega Institute, along with Linda Tucker, and celebrated artist Amir Bey, artist and astrologer, and celebrated wizard, master astrologer Rick Levine. And we're going to talk about these themes, the turning of the age, because as Linda was pointing out, we are in this transition time. And when we speak about an age, we speak about a 2,000 plus year cycle that began roughly 2,000 years ago. And we know what happened 2,000 years ago. Our calendars are calibrated to before Common Era and prior to Common Era, which was earlier on before Christ. So Jesus and Mary represented the fisherman and the virgin, which by great age, astrological age, refer to the axis of the Pisces-Virgo age. So the symbolism of the signs manifested in a very literal way. The ages move according to the wobble of the earth on its axis. And it's caused by the fact that the earth is not a perfect sphere, and it has this wobbling effect that in turn moves the alignment of the North Pole to the stars in the North and South celestial poles. So what today we, you know, our North Star is Polaris, because the angle of the wobble is pointing towards Polaris, but it will eventually change to another planet and to another star. And that whole cycle takes about 26 26,000 years total for a full completion. And so if we divide this by 12 signs and 12 axes, we have a roughly 2,100 year age. And so we're transitioning now from Pisces Virgo to Aquarius Leo. And when I speak about a transition, I personally do not set a date and say, you know, today we're in the Pisces age, tomorrow we're going to be in the Aquarius age, but rather as an overlap. As one fades, the other one rises. And it's very interesting in the light of speaking about the lions that the Aquarius aligns with the spring, the equinox time in the northern hemisphere, whereas the spring in the southern hemisphere in September, the spring of the south is aligned with the Leo lion constellation. And so it, you know, it doesn't escape us that the white lions are emerging during this time of transition in the southern hemisphere, during this transition time. And we know that they've been very recently really identified officially. There were sightings of white lions, but it's only in 1975 that the first photograph was really taken. So there's something of mythical that is manifesting in physical reality. What I would also like to point out, as I also would like to pass the mic to Lynn, is the fact that yesterday was an exact conjunction between two important planets, Jupiter and Uranus, in the Earth sign of Taurus. So the celebration of Earth Day is very timely, aligned also with this extraordinary conjunction that happens every 14 years. But it happens in the sign of Earth, the sign of Taurus, the cow, the abundant, fertile sign that provides food and nutrition the same way the Earth does. It only occurs in that sign every 83 to 84 years. So it is a celebration. And the interesting delineation, the interesting interpretation of this conjunction is that Jupiter, the planet Jupiter and Uranus represent science and spirituality. So these two planets are about unifying science and spirituality. So when we see this statement from scientists recognizing the consciousness of Earth, it seems absolutely relevant to this activation of the planets. The Earth is the Taurus, the science is the astrobiologist, and the spirituality is recognizing that everything is conscious and intelligent. And so the important, I would say for me, one of the things that I retain from this is that Jupiter and Uranus speak of the higher mind. Whether you're a scientist or whether you are, on a spiritual path, you dwell into philosophy, research, the higher self. But Taurus is the sign of the lower self, in a sense, not lower in any demeaning way, but lower self as it caters to our need for survival, our need for nourishment. I need to incarnate in the material physical body. So it is really an opportunity to bring higher consciousness in a physical form and bring it down to earth, bring it down to an actual activation, to a material, tangible reality. And so if we speak of the Aquarius Leo age, we're transitioning from the Pisces age, which brought us, you know, a recognition of what is sacred, you know, the spirit world. You know, one of the messages of Jesus is that the material world is temporal, and you know, you will be rewarded in the kingdom of heaven, in the higher spheres, in the higher self. But the Leo Aquarius speak about leadership in this time, which means bringing heaven down to earth rather than us going to heaven. It is about the creative capacity and the hope that we have to actually bring wisdom in a material way in this dimension, and not and resist the temptation to escape. So many important alignments are ahead of us. And one following one is next year, when we have a very critical conjunction of Saturn and Neptune at the very zero reset degree of Aries in 2025, 2026. So whatever we will be discussing at this event, and we're touching on the surface here, is part of this dramatic planetary, political, humanitarian shifts ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you. And you can see the opportunity embedded in your explanation that humanity is invited to rise, in the midst of the meltdown, in the midst of the crucible. Should we hand over to Lynn to speak to that, Lynn?
Yeah, thank you so much, Linda and Maurice. Wonderful listening to both of you. I started to feel this incredible turning energy between the cosmos and what we see, Linda, what you've witnessed every day, daily, with your connection, with your deep, heartful connection between the animal species and the human. That the ability to open completely to other beings. And I've been thinking as you were talking is, why does the whole astrological system put animals in the sky in the first place? We've always seen other beings there, and we see it reflected in ancient art. We see it we have this combination of human and animal beings in the great temples in the ancient Near East. But one of the things that I loved what Maurice was evoking about the old archetype of the fisherman and the virgin, and the Pisces and the Virgo, and this reminder that very slowly the paradigm starts to shift. And that when we think of Aquarius, Aquarius is almost always represented by a human, usually a man, but not always, outpouring things from a jar. So pouring out of this jar is an energy. And I think the symbol of Aquarius, the very symbol of Aquarius, is telling us we can bring something in. We can bring in the new cosmos. We can bring something from above, but it's the way it's received in the Leo part of the sign, there's the cold and the hot, the distance and the fiery immediate experience of the solar energy of the sun. It's this combination of our knowledge and the heartful expansion of the ability to recognize life, not just to be fascinated by the technological and energetic toys that are being open to us. Because as we enter, and Maurice, I know you've talked about a lot about this in the past, the connection between we had a conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius at the end of 2020. And now Pluto has entered Aquarius. So there's a power, there's a kind of celestial power drawing our attention to this sign. And most people's attention is on artificial intelligence. Okay. And Linda, what you are holding is natural intelligence. The intelligence that is already there in every living thing, whether it's a rock or a tree or an extraordinary white lion. And this kind of connection, okay, between the ability of our minds to create entire universes, to change the world, but also when one of the things we know now, Jim was talking about Gaza, we know that one of the reasons it is so horrible is that the Israeli military is using artificial intelligence to make its decisions. They've taken that technology, the child of the mind, and stepped the humanity away from that intelligence of the heart. And we have never seen this in an enlightened, modern nation state to have that, to in fact distance ourselves from any responsibility or ethos between the intelligence of the heart in everything we do, in everything we say. So we're looking, as the age of the Aquarius comes in, which will be seen it go back and forth. And I love, Maurice put up the chart of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. And for those of you who understand charts, you will have noticed that there were 3 planets in Pisces at the moment of the conjunction. So again, we have this other marker of the in-betweenness of the time we're in. And sometimes when we're on the verge of something new, when we're on the verge of something exceptional, it seems worse than ever. As Jim said, are we worthy to survive? You know, have we gone too far? And there is always a sense at the end of an age of the fall into desecration, out of the sacred, into something that's forgotten the sacred, that's forgotten the nature of things. And just like Maurice, I saw something the other day that there's new insight into the solar energy. And lions are, in the astrological paradigm, the lion is the sun. The center of every system is, the center of every galaxy is a sun, or more than one sun, but also the heart in our human body. And that notion of there's new insight into the whole energetic shift that's occurring in the sun. In the next year or so, the sun will change, its poles will shift, its magnetic poles will shift. And it's only now that scientists are saying, oh yeah, that has something to do with us. This is like every time we have a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, our awareness, our consciousness, the picture of the universe we are able to receive within the projection of our skull cinema changes. The old picture is broken through and a new one comes in. And suddenly we bring in things that are out there above us. But as Linda is saying, this out there and above us, as we go higher, as we go further, as we take in more, we also need to bring it into that and the incredible simplicity of the earth form, of the living being, of the living, breathing planet, of the step, as you were saying, Linda, of our feet on the ground and our connection to that golden light that comes into us into each being here through our hearts. And so without this, if we only go with the mind, and this is a danger with Pluto in Aquarius, which will be 20 years, okay? We've had the first 6 months. The danger is that the power of the technological toy and the mind's inventive, separate from the living being, can take us into places that are even more horrific than what we've been seeing. So it is ever more important that we understand how it's coming through. And these signs act, the image I was getting as both Maurice and Linda were talking, was almost like, you know, sometimes we have a lever that turns a cylinder. We see some of these images in the old globes that were drawn. We see a lever where as we are turning, as we connect and we become conscious to this process, we bring in the energy through the different levels of our being, both our psyche, our emotion, and our felt state, where we understand that we are not separate from other living beings. Or as Maurice said, we are not separate from the horror of what certain humans have done to the planet, but we see them with an open heart. And this is so important, and all the astrology markers, the markers that we're going into and that we will be talking as an archetypal part of, but not just talking, but stepping into in our time at Omega, I think will be quite extraordinary. And being there with you, Linda, it's a very beautiful place. Very near the most urban, most civilized city in America, New York. And being there with both of you who have such a strong connection to the natural world through your whole lives, both of you born in Africa. Well, Maurice born in Africa and you reborn in Africa, Linda.
Absolutely, born and reborn there. Yes.
Yes, but reborn, born and reborn in Africa.
Lynn is referring, if some of our viewers don't know, that in 1991, I had a near-death and rebirth experience where I found myself in the middle of a pride of lions, 24 lions, and who appeared to be about to well, I was trapped and I was facing imminent death. And then an extraordinary medicine woman in traditional dress with a baby strapped to her back and 2 little boys walking with her seemingly in a state of trance. It was pitch dark. It was at night. She walked through the pride of lions to come and rescue me. Now, how is this for beautiful synchronicity? Her final departure day was on Earth Day today when she passed, Maria Rosa. And I dedicated my book to her, which took a decade to write. So that's your reference to me being born in Africa and reborn in Africa.
I forgot. Do you know, I got carried away. But we are stepping, I think what's so important is each of us here, each person in Humanity Rising, and Maurice called our event Humanity Rising. I think he was totally inspired in that way, into the Leo and Aquarius paradigm, is that we are walking into this. And every time we touch into this energy, we're inviting it to come in more fully, more clearly, more consciously, quicker. Because as it does, one of the things that happens with Jupiter-Uranus, which is really, was exact yesterday, but is still quite exact, is that we're stepping up into our ability to take in new paradigms as a collective. It's like maybe we could say we go in 14-year steps. We break through into new perception of the divine potential and the divine consciousness. And as we do that, every time we do this, we wake it up in other people. I always feel that waking up when I hear you speak, Linda, or when I work with my extraordinary colleagues like Maurice. And when we come together in that kind of a place, something as I was privileged to do for so many years in Chartres with the Wisdom School, which became Ubiquity. It's such an extraordinary happening. We have no idea what really happens, but we all know something happens. And so I'm looking forward to that with both of you.
Absolutely. And I think for non-astrologers, just to summarize for everyone, this turning into the age of Leo Aquarius, as Maurice and Lynn are describing, it's important to recognize that Aquarius and Leo have the higher octave and then the shadow. And we as humanity need to choose how we navigate this if we are to embrace an opportunity here. So Aquarius is the technologically advanced human with stellar potential, the higher mind, the invitation to rise in that way. However, the shadow side is the abuse of artificial intelligence and the result of bionic or robotic humans without conscience, without hearts. And that is the shadow that is facing us, as you describe. In Gaza, we have seen what a robotic, heartless humanity is capable of. Likewise, Leo is the sun, as the astrologers have described, the sun, the noble, the radiant, the pride of a being who emanates life, who carries the flame of continuity, is associated with having cubs, not only cubs, but ensuring continuity of life of all species, for it is the apex animal, the golden capstone on the tip of the pyramid of life. But there is also a shadow side to the leonine human. You know, it is all heart, golden heart. But if we look at what is the shadow side of Leo, it probably would be self-aggrandizement, you know, entitlement, believing you are entitled to dominate or control, and that you are, you know, even ISIS, for instance, the movement ISIS would leonize themselves. So we are at a moment of choice now. The combination of arrogance without heart is what is facing us. And we are choosing the warm, leonine heart that is able to navigate higher consciousness humanity and become the upright human. Now, I promised I'd take you back to an evolutionary event in history that parallels our own. So give me just a moment. It was something that truly fascinated me when I was writing this book over that 10-year period after the initiation that Lynn describes in the bushveld. I had to understand this mystery that links humans to lions, and that there could be a consciousness unafraid of the lions who I thought were about to eat me. The consciousness of this woman who walked through the lions, when I asked her, how did you do that? She said, they are my family. Why would they harm me? You are the aggressor. And she pointed at me, because humanity is the beast. Humanity, as we are facing right now, is capable of dehumanized acts and dehumanizing nature or denaturing nature. But in my research on the white lions, I came to a fascinating archaeological site that is very famous, but this particular thing is not well known. The Cradle of Humankind in South Africa holds codes of humanity's origins. But there's one cave that is not so well known. And with the scientist who uncovered all these paleoarchaeological remnants, discovered something that is parallel to the moment we're talking about now. We have the potential for an evolutionary leap into the higher human if we anchor it with heart, which is the compass of truly responding and being awake, that term that you reference. So here's, I don't know how well you can see these pictures, but essentially what happened in these caves was that our prehistoric ancestor, Australopithecus, you know, the primate who was fruit, shoot, and root eating, so was part of the ecosystem and was predated on. That is our ancestor, our common ancestor, Australopithecus. This being was cohabiting in this cave together with lions at that time. The evidence proves that in that layer. And then the evidence proves that fire was discovered or was used in this cave. And then there's a strata that shows that the subsequent inhabitants of the cave was Homo erectus, the upright human. So if we're looking at the parallel moment with our moment now, what Lynn refers to as the Prometheus event in humanity, in our event that is upcoming, she talks about the Prometheus event that we are facing right now. Prometheus was the mythological figure who discovered fire. And what that means, we're at that moment now. What are we going to do with this technological knowledge? Are we going to destroy our planet, or are we going to use it to reignite enlightenment and the continuum of life? Because fire means power, and that was what was gifted to us, or what we learned in the presence of the great cats in that cave during a former ice age. Fire, we could use it to warm, to pass on in an Olympian way the knowledge, the breath of fire, what it is to live embodied. Or, as humanity has done, unfortunately, fossil fuels, atomic bombs, firearms, all that we're speaking about. But the choice is ours at this time, and that's what we need to recognize. We are in a moment of choice, and with a conscious planet who is supporting us in this turning point. She is rising. She is not going to be brutalized any longer. And humanity can rise with her. So that might be a closing point and open to discussion now, so that we can answer questions around this. What would you say? What would you say? There is so much to be said, and there are wonderful comments coming through the feed.
I think isn't there a discussion room that we got the link to a little earlier, so we could go in and then see people? I'm not sure Jim is still with us, but
Okay. Yeah. Let's open to the discussion room, because I've hoped to provide, with Lynn and Maurice's input, the components of a much bigger discussion of the threshold and the opportunity that is awaiting us. And personally, and living with the white lions and seeing how they have expanded their ecosystem, restored the health and healing and the continuity of life, I live with hope. I mean, I also live in that, as you described, Lynn, that discombobulated state of sometimes just, it's beyond me what humans are capable of. And in respect of lions, when you denature nature and you keep lions in cages and breed them to kill them en masse for humans to consume them, which is happening and which I've been an advocate to prevent and has finally been prohibited by South African law. It's a massive process to shut down this industry. But when you see consumerism come to its most appalling conclusion that anything can be commoditized, then you realize we have come to the brink. But then you also see that nature is capable of restoring herself, and the lions are here with us to guide us through. And then you have hope. So that's where we are.
And just an interesting note to bridge those points is that the natural zodiac, the natural order of the different signs which relate to the placement of the animals in the sky has synchronistically, and of course nothing is random, synchronistically aligned the lion and the human as one axis. And we ask her why? Why is the lion facing the human? The Aquarius is the higher consciousness of the higher human. And Leo, as you all mentioned, represents the heart versus the mind. And how these two organs are interlinked. They cannot work well without the balance of the other. You know, a heart without a mind is foolish, is naive. And a mind without a heart can be extremely destructive because of its power. When we look at the Promethean element, Prometheus basically was the one who transgressed the rules to bring fire for humanity. And like Linda was saying, fire is power. But what type of power? Why did the gods were reluctant to do it? Is because fire, and that power is the power of free will. And if you give humanity free will, it could make mistakes. It could basically cause destruction. When you have choice, you can choose, the righteous way or the wrong way. And you sometimes learn through the mistakes what is right. Whereas before fire was granted, in the time where Kronos was leading, we speak about Kronos and Zeus. That is the transition between Saturn and Jupiter in the Greek pantheon. During Kronos' time was a time of peace, was the time of what they refer to as a golden age. And you think, how did they achieve that? They did not have free will. They did not have fire. And so when you don't have free will, you don't make mistakes. Everything is running according to higher order. And so there is no mistake. The moment you have fire, you have free will, you could cause damage. And then the era of Zeus and Jupiter is more chaotic because the element of fire is present, which is both an opportunity, but it's a huge risk. And so the gods were reluctant to go there because should we risk giving humanity free will? And in astrology, the first sign of birth, which is Aries, the spring, the ignition of consciousness, is a fire sign. Because when we are born and we separate from the womb of our mother, but also the cosmic womb, we ignite our own consciousness. We become autonomous beings who have to make our own decisions, who cannot just rely on God to do the work. We become co-creators, participants, and that is the fire principle. And so as we move from the Pisces Virgo to the Leo Aquarius age, we're moving from fate to free will. And that implies that when we are making mistakes, we can't blame nature, God, the up higher order. We have to step up to our own accountability and our own responsibility. And so this age brings an opportunity for alignment and for enlightenment, because when we realize that we have such power of destruction, that's when we stop blaming and we stop looking for scapegoats or excuses. But we have to own up to our own misguided decisions. So the same way in politics, when you are in the opposition, you can blame the leader for not doing enough or misleading everybody. But once you become the leader, you realize how hard it is, and that sometimes you have to compromise and you have to make, unpopular decisions. You're humbled, being on top of the pyramid, being the Leo Aquarian, rising up to that is, on the one hand, you can say, it gives honors and status and power, but it is actually very humbling. And so as we face the threat of destruction, we also face our own responsibility. And that is perhaps the opportunity for a real change, is when God, is not going to fix our mistakes, so to speak, or clean up after us. That's, food for thought, so to speak.
Thank you. Thank you. Jim, there have been some really interesting comments in the feed, and I know we've brought the sharing to a close, but we would be open to an open discussion, if that's possible, with in sharing the link to everyone.
The link's been shared about 4 times. So it's, if you just look up on the chat, it's Stan who's put the link in, Linda. So you should have it.
Excellent.
We can go to the after chat anytime, but I'd like to first make a comment and then ask a question of our astrologers here. And the first is that, the comment you made, Linda, about arrogance with no heart, and I would make a kind of a moral equivalency between what they're doing to the white lions, commodifying this magnificent beast, the king of beasts, with what, the genocide going on in Israel. It's an arrogance without heart at such a level of depravity. One can't imagine anything more depraved. And I think that the fact that that kind of thing is happening now is at the heart of what I've been picking up from my conversations with the Kogi, that the reckoning isn't temporal as much as it's the qualitative state to which humanity has fallen, and that you're grappling with. And at Columbia University, the student protesters are grappling with, and everyone around the world is bearing witness to. So I wanted to just make that note that we're at a place of qualitative arrogance without heart that is calling out of the cosmos, calling out of the earth a certain cleansing that that you're talking about, that the Kogi are talking about, that we see in the news. And it's within this context, Lynn and Maurice, and then have you comment, Linda. As I mentioned at the beginning, there's all kinds of, not only the Kogi prophecy, but other indigenous prophecies and even religious prophecies from the main traditions. And then climate scientists talking about that this moment coming up of the end of 2024, 25, 26, the Mayan calendar, remember 2012, has a lot to say about 2025, 2026. So I'm just wondering, in your understanding of astrology, is there anything commensurate in the astrological domain in 2025, 26 that would indicate this enormity of an event? Or as you look at the star chart, the planetary alignments, does it seem pretty normal?
I think we've been talking about 25, 26 for quite a while, in part because all the outer planets are changing signs. They started, Pluto's gone into Aquarius, it goes back into Capricorn, but it will go. We're changing from Earth and fire signs with the outer planets that indicate the larger movements of the cosmos to fire and air. And we change, the final changes in 2026. And Maurice put up a chart earlier of a major conjunction that he's done some brilliant writing on, and we'll be talking about a lot in the coming year, I'm sure. But one of the things is there's a kind of, we're in this place where we can fall into and be washed away. I mean, it really, until we get there, it's a very dangerous transitional point. Like all transitions have those moments where you don't know if you will make it to the other side. You don't know if that bridge will stay standing, right? And we've seen that. We've seen that literally. The universe is sending us so many images to just say, whoa, this isn't going to be here. These connections are broken. And yet the realignment on a cosmic level in 2026 indicates the possibility for us to shift in another vision of what it means to be civilized, human, and connected. And we haven't seen it for a very long time. And so I'm sure Maurice agrees with me. We are not without hope, but we see this devastating shift, and we don't know if that shift comes with massive washing away, or if there's an opportunity to step into something without that.
Yeah, that's certainly what the Kogi are saying. There's an opportunity to step into it with the mother.
Right.
And if we do not, then we get washed away, because the mother's going to restore herself with or without us, but is begging us for our conscious support in that regard. And at the fact that it seems to be so lacking at the major institutional levels is, I think, a cause of grave concern.
Maurice, maybe you want to address this, but there was, as you know, because we've talked a lot about this, Jim, there was a major conjunction. In 2020, we saw almost all the distortions of power, all the corruption of world institutions. It's a kind of, there is, and the people who have risen to positions of power in many places have dark hearts. And that's not true. There are many extraordinary humans also working at the highest levels to try and bring light back to the planet. But what it seems right now is that depraved humanity is who we're voting for, who we're attracted to, who we're cheering for, right? So when our shadow impulses take the lead, it goes south very, very quickly. But at the same time, we forget that that can shift almost as quickly into another place. Okay, and that's what we all want. All of us here want that. So sorry to jump in, Maurice. Maybe you'd like
No, thank you very much, Lynn. That was very helpful. Maurice, what would be your comment before Linda brings us to a close?
Yes, very powerful alignment coming up in, our eminent, and, just touching on what is happening also in November in the United States with elections, that, if anyone is interested, you can view my YouTube channel about these coming times are going to be extremely contentious, extremely contentious. And so it is leading to some kind of reset from 25 to 26 and onwards. But the choice is ours. As we say, we have now free will. It has been given to us, and we're entering an age where we become accountable for our choices. And as we face our own destruction, think about, the movie Oppenheimer, which obviously reflects historical accounts, how the threat of a nuclear disaster actually prevented a third world war and kept the war cold. So when we face the immensity of our potential destruction, there is a part of us that can awaken to saying, this is where we draw the line. It's very risky, but on the other hand, the opportunity is there to make better decisions when we are realizing the extent of our power. And I think this is going to be what changes us. Because when we look back at history, we see periods of Renaissance and high-minded civilization and time for the arts and time for union and bringing people together, and then another wave of destruction and another wave of world wars and collapse and shadows. So how do we step out of this duality? Something needs to not continue with this trend of, yes, we're fine, and then it collapses, and then we're fine again, and then we collapse again. But to really find what is behind it all. And I believe that the more we gain sovereignty, the more we will gain wisdom through the facing the mirrors. And so these times are immensely significant. We haven't seen, comparable shifts in any recent years, any recent centuries. So it is quite dramatic. And yeah, I can only encourage people to better understand nature, to better understand the intelligence, the privilege of being incarnated at this time, and to be part of this shift, because it is, it is a junction, it is a crossroad. I can go on and to highlight the dramatic effect of this, but that's why we're having this conference. It is to inspire, but not only to inspire, but also to understand what it's really about. It's not just, oh, we're shifting. What is the shift? Where is it coming from? What is, as precise as we can get, what is evolving through this transition?
Thank you. Thank you. Linda, final comments.
Well, final comments. We began with Earth Day. We have been speaking into the Kogi prophecy, which represents the Mother Earth. And that is an absolute key to the way forward. When we start hearing our mother again, when we start, before we make any decision in any day, in my project, we say, what would the lions have to say? What would Earth have to say about this decision? We are listening, and then we act with the heart. This is the rising human. This is the opportunity. And some of you will know when I presented in the South African Parliament for the second time, and around this diabolical industry which commoditizes lions. It was the central hall of the South African government, and I dragged up a chair to the hall, and I put the mantle of the white lions over it, and I said, "Who will speak for the lions?" And there was an absolute chill in, all the officials and all the representatives and all the scientists and all the opinionated humans who were thinking with the mind. When we start listening to nature, we know what our way forward is. When we listen with the heart, we truly know. So just to close, Jim, if I can, over the decades, I've produced this pack of cards of inspiration, cards of divination. We all drew one in Chartres when I was last there, and they were totally accurate. The lions are with us at this moment. So while you were speaking, Maurice, because I know time is short, I drew 3. I drew the first card, which is the lion speaking to all of us as rising humanity at this time. The first card was destiny. We're at a destiny moment, and we know that. That's what we've spoken into, a collective and an individual destiny. The second card I pulled from the lion speaking to us is spiritual evolution. That is the opportunity for us to evolve spiritually if we are anchoring with the heart. And then the last card that they gave us as a message, the last message, is value and value systems, the golden compass of the heart. When money and gold and the heart are one and the same thing, we have a new system. Money is a brutalized system that has not anchored the heart. And so they're showing the way. They're showing a beautiful encouragement of our path forward at this time. It is our path to the golden age, which is the potential. The phoenix births out of the crucible, and that's what we should remember. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Maurice. And then one more time, Linda, your event at Omega Institute is June 4?
No, 7th.
June 7th.
To the 9th.
7th to the 9th. It's
7th
that
to the 9th.
weekend.
So people could go to Omega Institute's website and sign up. Cool.
We would love to continue this conversation there, because this anchors the opportunity in the midst of the chaos.
Thank you all. This has been very, very profound, and particularly on Earth Day at a time of Kogi prophecy, illuminating ourselves with the vastness of the cosmos and what the lions have to say, and the planets and the stars is always a very profound portal to peer through. So thank you all very much. Now that'll bring us to a close for today, everyone. You're welcome to join these lovely people in the after chat. You'll see the link in the chat box, and then you receive the link in your Zoom reminders for today. And then tomorrow we'll continue on with Humanity Rising. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, everyone.